guys. So today we are looking at another indie miniature game. This game is called Operation Squad World War II. Skirmish rules for miniature battles in the Second World War. It says it's easy to learn, fun to play, by Massimo Toriani and Valentino del Castello. So we're going to get right into the book. I actually got this at like a discount bookstore called Half Price Books. I was not familiar with it before then, but I was kind of interested because it said that it was Skirmish World War II. And so I like boat action, but boat action is actually more of a platoon or maybe a squad level game where you're moving small platoons or small squads at a time. So in this game, I'm assuming it's going to be more man-to-man since it says skirmish. So it says the miniatures here are supplied by Warlord Games, painted by warpaint.it. So the game kind of gets into some early definitions, talking about the game and the simulation. It uses D6 dice, tape measure, tables, models, status markers, which I believe are at the back of the book. So you have these different markers to mark the status, and those will be somewhat important in the game. And then it kind of talks about your playing area. Says the wargames table, the best size is 120 centimeters by 120 centimeters, which I'm assuming is 4x4. I'm just looking at this, or maybe 3x3. I don't have a ruler in front of me. All right, and so the game is going to begin with initiative, and then what's called your action sequence, and then you remove markers and any remaining shot dice, which is, so there's only really 3 phases. But obviously the second phase is pretty huge. So player A chooses a model and declares his intentions. Player B can react by choosing a model and declaring his intentions. Player A can counter-react by choosing a model and declaring his intentions. Player B can react again by choosing a model and declaring his intentions, and so on, for up to a maximum of 3 actions and 3 reactions. So every time you choose what you're going to do with a model, your opponent now chooses what he's going to do with one of his models. You can now choose to do something with another model in response to that, or you can begin that sequence, right? Now, it's kind of funny because I've never really seen this in a set of rules before, meaning I've seen rules where somebody can say what they're going to do and then they react. But I've never seen it where you then can react and they can react and you then can react and they can react. And if you think about it, you would think this would be a very hectic game to play. But you got to remember, it's a skirmish level game. So at most, maybe you guys are going to have 5 to 6 men on the table in a game like this. So with 6 men, at most, you're going to be able to activate half. So now after you do that, it says the sequence is repeated for the other player. Now, there's an interesting thing I skipped. So after we do all these reactions, it says roll dice to determine priority. And the priority is going to be very important, because when you declare what you're going to do, you do not know what order you're going to do it in until the priority is resolved. And I will explain that to you. And then after it says the sequence is repeated for the other player, meaning when it's their turn in the action sequence, they declare, you declare. And you determine priority. And it says the sequence is repeated until all models have been assigned and have executed an action. When all models have performed an action, the turn is over and a new one can begin. And so it just goes like that very quickly. There's not a lot of other stuff in between. Now, during your action sequence, there's a variety of things you can choose to do. But let's first start with initiative. The winner of initiative can decide if she wants to give the first order, of his or her model or force their opponent to play first. In order to decide the initiative, both players roll 2d6 and add the highest VT of the active models. And I think the VT is like a stat on your models, because we have kind of army lists here. So, for example, where are those army lists? So, in this Russian squad, a political commissar has a VT of 4. Right? If we look at a Red Devils paratrooper, a sniper has a VT of 4, a sergeant or a corporal has a VT of 4. There are a few that have 5s. So in American Infantry Squad, you have 4, 3, 3, 4, and so forth. Ranger Squad, you have a Ranger Sergeant with a 5. So again, you roll 2d6 and add the highest VT of the active models on the table. And so I think active models maybe if they're not under a condition which stops them from applying their VT. So then, like I said, we go into our action sequence. Now it says the alternating between A and B and continues until one of the players passes. And pass means you say, all right, I'm not going to activate. You can only do 3. But say he reacts and you say, that's fine, I'm done. Then that means you're only going to do that one figure. He's going to do 1. Then the sequence will go back to him. And then it starts over. Or you can do 2. But so once you say you're not doing another one, it's called a pass. So once you pass, you roll 2d6 for each model that has been assigned an action and add their tactical value. Remember, we just saw the VT. Which I don't know why they called it VT there, because I think it is tactical value in the charts. Let me make sure that's not something different. No, so it's VT here, but that's just their tactical value, right? And as far as I can see, I mean, that's really the only stat they have. I think everybody in this game takes 1 wound and then they're gone. So that's also kind of interesting at this scale. Doesn't mean you can only get hit once, but it means you only take one wound or kill and you're gone. So anyway, you add their tactical value. Says it makes it easier if you leave the dice rolled next to each model to remind you the order in which the orders will be performed. What I do is I take the dice rolled and I add their value and then I leave that total next to them. After checking the totals, move to the order execution phase, starting with the highest value down to the lowest. If there are 2 identical totals, the first one to act is the model that chose his action first in the sequence. If more than one model on the same side rolls the same total, then the player can decide the order. Now, like I said, the actions you can choose in your action sequence is an assault. The model is going to assault in melee. You can do a fire at a target. You can do a first aid, a hide, indicate a target, move and fire, or move carefully. Now, I will explain a few of these in depth a little bit when I kind of play through a round of this, but most of these you're going to need the book to explain them. You have a reload, a run, and then a stand up. And then so here it gives you an explanation of what each action does. You have wait action. Says in some cases, squad leader can use wait actions. If this is the case, then the player will use a dice to keep count of them. During the action sequence, he can turn the dice over next to the next lowest number and pass, forcing the opponent to play again. At the end of the turn, the wait actions are renewed and can be used again next turn. It says only a squad leader can do that. They have a lot of examples in here, which I like. So then there is some comments on terrain, on line of sight, which most of that is kind of standard. Now, this is the interesting thing with the damage table. So every shot gives a total. The higher the difference, the more damage is inflicted. So right there you see there's going to be a roll-off when you shoot. You will roll all of your dice you have in the attack, which are D6s. They will roll any dice they have in the defense, which can be cover or their position or status or whatever. If you beat their roll, right, says if the total is less than or equal to 10, then the shot misses. If the total is 11, 12, or 13, then the target model is pinned. Now remember, this is above their row, which I also found that's kind of unusual. So you're not just trying to get an 11, 12, or 13. You're trying to beat their row and get an 11, 12, or 13. And just to clarify that, where was that at? Has a rate of firing 2. Once you've decided how many shots are fired, you need to see if they've hit and what damage is inflicted. Add the values, weapon range, characteristic. Subtract all the negative dice to find the total. Now, what it means by subtract all the negative dice is the results of the negative dice. Because when you first read that, it makes you think, okay, I have 5 dice, you have 3. I take those 3, I have 2 left. That's not what it means. It means you subtract the values that your opponent rolled on his negative dice, and then you get your total. So now if your total is 11, 12, or 13, you get a pin. If it's 14, and I will tell you, it is very hard to hit these numbers, right? Most of your shots are going to be misses or pins. It is very hard to get a wounded and let alone a kill. 16 or more after subtracting enemy dice is a kill. Because the average person in here, I think the average shot is either 2 or 3 dice. So if you need a 16, you would literally have to roll, if you had 3 dice, you need to roll 6s on at least 2 of those dice, right? Because 3 6s is 18. So you need at least 2 6s, which is 12, and then you need a 4 to hit 16. And that's if he has no dice coming off. If he has even 1 dice and rolls a 6, and you have 3 dice and you're rolling, you cannot kill him. The best you could hope for would be a pin. So it is very hard to kill in this game. So nobody, like I said, a lot of them do not have wounds. But you can take a wound and die from your wound. So it says here, a wounded model that is wounded again will die. Now it's not much easier to get a wound. With a wound, you need a 14 or 15. And again, the average person has about 3 dice on their attack. The average defender usually has at least 1 dice. So again, if you're trying to get this 14 or 15, you need at least try to get 5s on 3 dice. And that's assuming he's not taking anything away. If he rolls a 4, you won't be able to get a wound. Well, the 14 you might get hit. So then it talks about cover. You subtract D6 from the roll to hit. Priority targets. Models on the firing line. And so there's different things where your NCOs can kind of help you get some extra dice. That's what the whole targeting thing is. And then these are your weapons table, which tells you how many dice your weapon throw with every shot. So like the M1903 Springfield rifle throws 2d6 with every shot at close range, which is only 20 centimeters. At normal range, which is 40 centimeters, it only throws 1d6. Right? Rate of fire is 1. That's pathetic. 1d6 at normal range, if you really think about it, and you need at least a 11 to get a pin. 1d6, you can't even get a pin. At normal range, you cannot get a pin on a guy. You're just tossing shots into the air with 1d6. Now, some of your soldiers, I think, will be able to add a die. And I think it's based on their rating. So let me check that. So I'm trying to kind of give you guys a good overview before I just show you a quick setup. Because I read these about a week ago, so some of this stuff is still a little, it's kind of left my head a bit. No, they don't have a die, they have a VT. So say you have that 1d6, if your VT, which the average is 3, which I remember, a 6 and a 3 would be a 9. So at that range, if you're an average rifleman with only one die shot at that range, you're not going to be able to do anything. Even if they have no dice, there's no way you're going to be able to score a pin or anything. Now, that does not mean you won't take the shot, because I think there's a certain rule in here about when you are firing, as far as if they've been fired at before or by more than one person, it might help another opponent. And that's, like I said, that's the part I have to double check. So once we get through there, so we've kind of understood how the damage works, which you either get pinned, a wound, or a kill. There's your priority targets. There's models on the firing line, hidden models, and spotting. So that's an interesting thing as far as hiding and spotting. And the only thing I will state about this now is if somebody shoots at you, you can say you are going to try and hide, and it will really mess up their shot. So I might declare a shot at you, and you say, well, my reaction is he hides. And then I say, okay, well, this guy is going to shoot at you. Because maybe, depending on where you're at, one person's shot you can hide from, whereas another's you can't, if you have no kind of cover between you and them. You got to have some cover to do a hide. So then here's our weapons table. And they have weapons tables for each army nationality, which is pretty cool. They talk about multiple shots, support weapons, ammunition belt, grenades and indirect fire bursts, interrupting movement to fire or throw a grenade, and indirect fire. And then it talks about melee or assault actions. Both players roll 3d6 and add their own VT, but the assaulter gets an extra d6. The model that gets the highest total wins. His total without subtraction is used to check for a result on the damage table. So basically, this is just a pure roll-off. You don't even subtract the other person's stuff. And then you take that total and you check on the damage table in a melee, and you see what happens. Which obviously, if your total is, 16, you would kill them. Although I don't know if you get a pin in a melee. I didn't know of that. It says Massimo gets a 14 as melee. His German gets a 12. The American has 1, and so checking on without subtractions, the German is wounded. Models that survive in melee are considered engaged. In subsequent turns, engaged models can only use an assault. In this event, first there is the melee, and then if the enemy has been killed, the model can move in any direction as far as movement allows. You are not allowed to fire models in a melee. Remember, despite the fact that only one model is assaulting, both are in melee. So you can do assaults, which I guess you tie a person up until one of you are dead. It says if you assault a pinned model, you can re-roll 1d6. So obviously, if you pin him in the first engagement, the next turn you can re-roll 1/6. Let's see. It doesn't say about if they're wounded. From outside is firing arc, inside area cover, behind a linear obstacle. Then it talks about breakpoints, where models will start to roll away. That's kind of self-explanatory. Characteristics are basically keywords on some of your models. And then you get into your tables. You have a summary of tables. You have your weapon tables. You have your nationality weapon tables, your counters. You have some more summaries of some of the concepts in the game. This shows you what each of the chits mark mean, and another character. So that's if you have more than one player. Then it talks about playing the game, starting the game, deployment, and then they have 5 scenarios and a squad roster. I like this. The Americans have infantry and rangers, and I think airborne. The British have the rifle squad or fusiliers. I think they have paratroopers and commandos. The Russians have a rifle squad, an assault squad, and the guards rifle squad. The Germans have a grenadier squad, a Fallschirmjäger, which is their paratroopers, and a Panzer grenadier squad. And that is the game, guys. So I am going to try to do a quick kind of demonstration for you, and then we're going to call it. Okay, guys, so I got a real basic setup here. We have an American squad behind this bridge who is entering, they are entering this small town area, which is currently held by some Italians somewhere in Italy. And this is an American squad that has landed in some of the first landings in Salerno, and their job is to scout out this town. They are trying to check every building and secure each building. Of course, as they enter, the Germans are going to have a little bit to say about that. So we're going to go through the rules step by step, and let's just see how they play out. I will stop as necessary to explain. So the first thing we need to do is roll for initiative, where it says we will roll 2d6 and add the highest VT. So basically all of these are just basic rifle squads. I don't have stats for the Italians, but I'm just going to use the German squads stats. So, but basically all of these guys have 3 VT except for one leader who is a 4 on each side. So we will roll 2d6 for the Americans and 2d6 for the Germans. So we will give the Germans the black dice. The Germans have 4 plus 4 is 8. The Americans have 8 plus 4 is going to be 12. So the Americans will get to go first. Now, obviously, the Americans have to decide what they are going to do. So I, as the American player, would nominate one figure and I will choose an action. Okay, so the first thing we are going to do is the leader of these Americans is going to order this soldier here with the Thompson to move out and basically fire at that guy in the building who he probably can't see him now, but he's going to give him a move and fire action. Now the rule says with a move and fire you can move the model up to 15 centimeters, firing at an enemy model, subtracting 1d6. You may fire at the target model before or after moving and or turning your model. You're allowed to fire at a model that was not in your model's line of sight before moving and turning if it is when you fire. If the target moves when performing an action with a higher priority, then you can move your model towards the target. So we will get to that. But in the meantime, that is what I am going to declare, is that we are going to give him a move and fire. So let's just give him something to indicate that order. I don't have the tokens cut out. So now I asked my opponent, do you want to do anything? And so he indicates, let's see what he's going to do. Okay, so he's going to take a straightforward fire action, right? Because I've already told him I'm moving and firing, so he says he's firing. Now, what the fire action allows him to do is he can fire at a target model. If used to react or counter-react, you can delay fire and interrupt the movement of an enemy model to get better conditions. You may also react by firing at a model that was not initially in line of sight, as long as it is when you fire. If for any reason the model does not enter the line of sight, then the model doesn't fire and does not lose any hidden marker it may have once the action has been performed. So already I'm going to give this guy a hidden marker, because I think he should have one. Although maybe he might choose to be hidden. But anyway, okay, I'm going to give him a hidden marker. Just to start things out, just to see how the hidden marker works. And we will get to being hidden when it comes down to firing. So now it goes back to him, and he has to declare what he's going to do. And so he indicates this guy is going to also do a move and fire. And I will explain what he's doing later. So now it goes back to them, and he indicates, well, I'm going to fire. And that's this soldier here. And he will get a hidden marker. Now, remember, you can only do 3. So we go back here and say, okay, do you guys want to do anything in response to those two? And this character says, I am going to move up. And let's see whether he will do a move carefully. Does not mean you lose your hidden marker. So these guys, I'm going to also give them hidden markers, because they're pretty much hidden right now. So I'm going to see whether he should do a careful move or just a move, because there's two different ones. Okay, so there's not a regular move. There's a move carefully and a run. We're definitely not doing the run. He doesn't have anybody to fire at, but he's basically going to get a move action, assuming that the other guys are not going to be there. So he wants to move up into their spot. That's his reaction, is a move. He still has a hidden marker. These guys technically have hidden markers, but I think they're going to lose them when they do their actions. So now we go back to them and say, okay, do you guys want to do anything else? And one of these guys way down here, and just for my sake, I'm going to do this guy here. I think he's going to elect to take a fire action as well. Now, he may not have a target in sight, but he will take a fire action, and I will also declare that he is hidden. Okay, so now that's all we can do. Everybody has kind of chosen to give orders of some type to 3 models, and things are going to heat up very quickly here if I am guessing how these rules work. So let's go. Okay, so we're going to now move this character out. He said he's doing a move and fire. I don't really think I need to count the inches. I think they said 6 centimeters or something like that. But since he is firing at a hidden model, he is going to have to make what is called a spotting test. Oh, before we do that, I forgot one thing, because I'm just learning this. We now have to roll for everyone's priority. And that's what I forgot to do. Only because he declared first does not necessarily mean he's going to go first. So I'm going to do the rolls for the priority. Let me double check that. Because I think with priority, you just roll D12. Roll dice to determine priority. Roll dice to determine priority. Let's see. Where are we at? Okay, so we have kind of an interesting situation here. Since, as you can see, he has an 18, which is the highest priority on the table. His fellow soldier had a 9. They have a 9. So that's the 3 on their side. Here we have an 8, a 12, and a 9 as well. But because he has the 18, he actually has to go first. And because he has a fire order, he would be trying to fire at that soldier. But if you can see from here, the soldier is basically out of view. He can't see the soldier from here. You know, maybe he could, but he couldn't shoot through the bricks and stuff. So his turn would be wasted. However, squad leaders can do what is called a wait, and they can do it twice per game turn. Not twice per sequence, but per game turn. And what a wait would allow him to do is to drop this die to the next lowest number, by 1 obviously, and then require the next person in order to go. If that person, for example, did a wait, it would go back here, and he'd have to either drop it again or lose that turn. In this case, that number is so high, I really don't think that it would help him simply dropping it to the next lowest number. So that actually means his shot is going to be wasted, but he will not lose his hidden marker, as far as I understand that. And that's going to be important because of the spotting rule. Okay guys, so I got to make one clarification, because I'm actually still learning these rules, but it's actually very interesting, because some of the things as I reread the rules are not what I thought they were. So his number, priority number, does not get moved down. What happens is the squad is given a certain number of weight actions. And in this case, let's just say their squad had 2 weight actions. So you would put a dice by your side of the table, their squad leader with a 2. This is how many weight actions. Some units get more weight actions, like if you're commandos or something. But if you use one, your dice would go down to 1. And if you use another one, you take your dice off. But this would not change. Now in this game, I did not give any of them weight actions because they're basic infantry squads on both sides, and they would have had to pay for them. So what happens now is he loses this shot. He will get to remain hidden, right, because he is hidden, but he will also now get what is called a turnover marker to indicate that he has already taken his turn. So I'm just going to use this. So there's a bit of markers that you use here. So that indicates that his turn is over. Now the interesting thing that I like about this is it basically means you don't always want to choose a reaction, because you could actually lose a lot of turns on a lot of figures. And, if you don't have enough weight actions, that will come back to hurt you later on, because this guy lost his turn just because of the way the priority turned out. So that's kind of interesting, is that you got to think if you want to react to everything. You just can't automatically say, I'm going to react. I mean, you can. But as you see here, because of the way the priority turned out, he lost that action. So now, the next guy we would go to, the next highest die is this 12. Now, he also chose a move and fire action. But at the time, I was planning on moving him out this way, which I think I'm still going to do, even though this guy that he was going to be shooting at has not taken any shots yet. He's assuming that he was going to take these shots because they're kind of moving and firing. Now, I think with a move and fire action, he can move, I think it was 6 centimeters. Is that right? Because I don't have it in front of me. I'm not going to worry so much about the distance in this game, because this is kind of a learning demonstration more than an actual playthrough. But it says for move and fire 15 centimeters. Yeah, that's enough. So anyway, this is his move and fire. This is his hidden. He's going to lose the hidden as soon as he comes out on the other side. So let's go around there. Okay, so this was his intention, was to come around and do a move and fire action on this building. So we're going to resolve that now. And I also learned something different about the firing. So the basic range of his weapon, which what does he have? All right, so he has a carbine. The basic range of his weapon is 20 centimeters, which he's outside the basic range. So he won't get 2 dice, he will get 1. Now, what I realized is everybody starts with 3 dice. Then you get your weapon dice. So it may be more lethal than I thought. So you get 3 dice. He will get another 1d6 for his weapon. And I think that's all he is going to get. Let me check. Okay, so that's all he gets in this instance. He will add his VT to it, which is 4, because that's my unit's corporal or squad leader. Now, the target model is behind hard cover, so he will get 2d6. Which, because he's in a building, so that's considered 2d6. I looked that up. If the firing model moves and fires, he gets another 1d6, because this guy is moving and firing. And the target, if there was a run, no, if the target was not in line of sight when the order was given, he wasn't. So he will get another d6. So this is going to be a very difficult shot, as you can see, if the target is hidden, and he's hidden. So that's another D6. Now, since he's hidden, we do have to do a spotting roll before we even roll any of these dice, because this may be academic. So to do a spotting roll, we simply roll 2d6 for each. The highest roll with their VT wins. So it is a 4 versus a 3. So the American has 6 plus 4 is 10. He has 4. 5 plus 3 is 9. So he is spotted. So we will go forward. He will get his shot. He is firing. I believe it is a M1 Garand, which is a semi-automatic. He gets 2 shots. So this is his first shot. And he has a total of 10 plus 3, which is 13, plus his 4, which would give him a 17. So now let's roll the defense dice. Wow, he did pretty good too. So he's got 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, plus another 3 for his VT is 17. And I think that is a tie, so he would not do any damage at all to this guy. That's just a straight up miss. So let's do his second shot though. He gets 2 shots. He needs higher roll this time. I don't know. I don't really know if that's going to be much better. And actually, one of these was supposed to be his number for his VT. So I got to take that out. Let's do this over. So he gets a 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, another 4. He has 17 again. So I guess he's hit an average. So the other one, again, how many dice did he have? I think he had 6 dice versus his 5. Yeah, and I think he really beat it again. Although I don't know where that came from. So he has 9, 10. Yeah, he's got way more. So none of those shots hit. And he will get a turn over marker. And he is no longer hidden, as you can tell, because he stepped out and took that shot. So that was a hard shot. It would have been better if his other guy had came and got a shot on him first. And then he had shot back. And that would have took his hidden off, which really helped him. So we go to the next order of priority. So actually this German here would be the next order of priority because he declared before the other 9s that I had. So we will take his priority die off. He declared a fire action and he obviously has a target who is definitely outside of 20 centimeters. He is going to lose his hidden because he is taking a shot. And we will see how many dice he gets. Okay, so we're going to have a very different result here. He has a total of 4 dice with his MP40 submachine gun. It's in range for 1 die. It gets 3 shots. Now, because this guy has no cover, excuse me, let's see if we can focus on that. Because he has no cover, he only gets 1 die because he was not in view when the action was declared. But other than that, he gets no hidden. He's lost his hidden because he came out and shot from around the corner. And I'm not giving him any benefit of that cover because of the direction that the shot is coming from. So he only has that 1 die to basically defend himself with. And he's going to be taking 3 shots. And of course his VT is 4. The firer's VT is only 3, but I don't know if that's going to make a difference. So let's roll here. We're just going to roll these together since it's 1 die. Okay. So he rolled a 5 plus 4 would be 9, but he has 10 plus 2 plus another 3 would be 5. So he will have 15 versus 9, or 9 from 15. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That is not enough. That's still not enough. So we will roll again. We are going to roll again. That shot basically just flies past his head. Okay, so this guy has a 3 plus his 4, which will give him a 7. So I'm going to put this 7 off to the side. He has a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, plus 3, 10, 11, 12, 13. 7, he only beats it by 6. So once again, he does no damage. So like I said in this game, I think it's going to be very rare that you're going to see kills or maybe even wounds. One more shot. So this is not really helping him. I thought he might be a little more dangerous. So let's see. So once again, he barely has 10 on his dice showing. So I can already tell. Although he has a 1 plus 4 is 5. He has 6 plus his 3 is 9, 10, 11, 12. That he only beats it by 7. So let me double check to make sure 7s and 6s don't do anything on the damage table when you are rolling to hit. Because none of them were very good hits for him. Let's see. Nope, anything less than or equal to 10, it does no damage. Or basically it says the shot misses. So you got to get at least an 11 to do a pin. So he fired off 3 rapid wild shots from his MP40, but he did no damage. Now he would also get a turnover marker, as you see there. And so the next 9 to declare, I think would have been this other character up here, who we might have forgotten about. So he also has an MP40. Basically the same situation, except for I'm going to give him 1 piece of cover. He will lose his hidden marker. But I'm going to give, this takes away, we'll take his fire action. So, but since he has an MP40, everything else for him is going to be the same. As in, he will get 3 dice for his basic shot. The range might be different. Let's see if he's within 20 centimeters. He's just outside. So he would get 1 more dice for his MP40. And does he get anything else? I think that is all he is going to get. His VT is 3. No, that's all he gets. It's 3d6 and it's 1 for his dice. And so that is going to be his shot. He will now get 2 though, because I'm giving him 1 for light cover. I'm going to give him light cover just because of the angle of the wall. So let's roll. So he has 9, 10, 11, 12. I don't even know if I need to roll for this. Yeah, he's not going to be able to do anything. So let's do him again. Okay, this is a shot that might do some damage. This might do some damage. So we add 3 to this die. That will give us 4. So he has at least 10, 20 showing. Let's see what he can do about that. He has a 4, so we will add 4 to this, which will give him 5. So he will take 9 from here, but that leaves 11. He barely did it, but he now puts a pin on him. So he will now put a pin on this character. And I think he has 1 more shot. So let's see if the pin is going to do anything with his future shots. And if the target was a run. Doesn't say anything if the target is pinned. So, but he does have 1 pin on him. And I think when you get a pin, you have to go down. Let me check. Yep, so as a pin model, he now goes down. In his next turn, the only thing he can do is stand up. He could move carefully, basically crawl behind that cover. Or I think he could do he could choose a hide action, which means he basically tries to hide up against the cover. Let's just see here. Lay down. In his next action, he can only stand up, move carefully, or hide. Okay, but he still has one more shot against him. So we're gonna get his 4 dice out. He still gets 2. I don't think he's considered hidden though, even though he's laying down now. So this one is gonna be close. See, he might need at least a 5. So he didn't get a 5. So we're going to add 4 to this, which gives him a 9. We add 3 to this, which makes this a 6. So we take 9 away from here. So that's 8. And this becomes 11. That's another pin. Now, I don't know how pins accumulate or if it makes any difference. So I will double check because that is another pin. So let me double check that. Okay, so I don't think there's any other effect if you take more than one pin. What it usually says is if a model has more than one shot and you pin somebody, you can move that shot to another target in range. But that would not come into play in this game. So now he will get a turn completed marker, which basically is this Italian who I've been calling a German this whole time. And we will now go to the other 2 Americans. I think one of them has a 9. Let's see. Okay, so they've been over here and a lot has happened while they've been basically getting ready to go. So this one has a 9 and he was only going to do a move action. But where he wanted to move to, well, I guess he could still do it. He's just going to move up here. He will remain hidden. But I was hoping to get him closer to the edge. But that was all he was going to do. So his action is resolved at 9. This is the last one with an 8, who now can actually come out and do his move and fire roll. And because one of these is not hidden, it actually might be a good move. So he will come around here to do his move and his fire. He will lose his hidden marker. We will take his status out. He is firing a Thompson submachine gun. Okay, so he's firing the Thompson. He gets his 3 dice. At this range, the Thompson gives him 1 die. He's just within 20. So actually, I think, let me check that, because he is just within 20, which might give him 2 dice. Thompson submachine gun. Yeah, if it's within 20, he gets 2d6. And he gets 3 shots for the Thompson. Now, this figure here, who is the target, is going to get several dice. He is in cover, but because that building is so damaged up there, I'm only going to give him light cover. If he was getting shot from the other direction, I'd give him heavy. So he gets 1 for light cover. The firer did move and fire, so he gets another dice for that. And the target was not line in sight when the order was given, for he gets another dice for that. He is not hidden, though. So he does not get in hidden dice, and both of these are 3s, so their VT will not matter. This is just going to be a straight roll-off. So we will roll for him his first Thompson shot. Wow, that's pretty decent. And we will roll for him. That's even better. So he has a 15 versus a, what is this? A 9 plus 9 is 18. That is not enough. The next shot. There's some low numbers in there. but he rolled even lower. So he has a 4, 5, 6. So if we take this 6 out, he's left with a 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That is a wound. I think that is a pure wound. So I put something there to indicate that he is wounded. We are now going to roll again because he still has one more shot. So I need to see if his wound is going to affect his dice. Okay, so this is interesting. What happens with the wounded model is he cannot add his VT to any of his dice rolls anymore. So now the American will automatically be getting to add his 3 because before they were canceling each other out. So I am going to reallocate the dice. He has 3 for his shot, 2 for his Thompson. He had 1 for partial cover, 1 because he had moved. And then I think I gave him another 1 because he was not in line of sight when the order was given. Okay, so let's roll for the shot, the last shot with the Thompson. Oh, this is a heavy shot too. And he's going to add 3, so this becomes a 5. And let's roll his. I don't know what that was. So he has a 6, 7. So I don't know what this was. I think it was a 2. So we're going to take 7 away. But that still leaves 12, 13, 14, 15. Which would be another wound. And this guy would be KIA. Just like that. Oh my goodness. The Thompson ripped him open. He falls from the building. He is a KIA. And guys, that is Operation Squad World War II. This is a very dynamic game. So let's just let me do a quick wrap up and I'll let you go. Okay guys, so that is Operation Squad World War II. And I'm just going to kind of give you guys some of my thoughts on the game. First of all, I actually really like the game. I like the playthrough. I think the game is very dynamic. It's probably the most dynamic game I've ever played for World War II like that. And the funny thing about it is it works. You know, when you're reading through it, you will have to read through the rules carefully because some of the things are not clear when you first read through them. But as you read through them again, you kind of start to see and understand, okay, now I know what he means. So like I was not aware that you always start with 3 dice and then you add from there. So you know, the thing with your weapon is that will not limit you, as you saw in the playthrough. But I think the game is unpredictable, which is probably, to me, the most unique aspect about it. As you could see, with those priority rolls, you may think you're going to do a certain thing, but it may not work out that way. Now, like I said, with the weight actions, which are very powerful for your squad leaders, that could have changed up things a lot because the order in things happen is very key to how things ultimately wind up getting resolved. And I mean, really, and it's kind of totally unpredictable, which is kind of what you would expect, you know, in a wartime situation. So I also think the game is pretty simple. I mean, I think the actual rules are probably 20 pages before you get to characteristics and keywords. And I didn't use any of this, but there's rules for medics in here. There's rules for snipers and marksmen. There's rules for heavy support weapons. And of course you have morale tests, which we didn't get to in here. But I think it's the type of game that if you've played it 3 or 4 times, you will almost memorize all of the most important kind of numbers, and then you will have to look up stuff like if you're throwing a grenade for the first time or something. Now, I do think the last turn I played where the American GI took out the German the Italian with a Thompson, I don't think he could have targeted that guy. And the reason I say that is if you do a fire action the way the rules read, you can fire at your target unless your fire action is a reaction. And if it is a reaction, you can change the target if your target is not available. And so, since that guy I picked actually chose the first action, his fire action was actually not a reaction. It was the first fire action of the game. So him, of all people, would not have been able to shoot at the guy on the top, as opposed to the guy on the bottom who he actually targeted. Now, I don't know if there's a rule that would let them do that, like maybe Rangers or something like that. But technically, he shouldn't have been able to do that. But I wanted to play out that shot because I knew the guy at the bottom was still hidden, and I did not want to waste shots on him. Plus, he had a lot of cover, so I wanted to see how it was when it opened up a little more, which I saw, where he was able to knock that guy out the top of the building with that triple blast from the Thompson machine gun. So that was what you call a ruler coup. Plus, I don't even know if the guy at the bottom should have kept his hidden marker after he shot. Because from what I read, it says if you shoot, you lose your hidden marker. The only time you don't lose it is if you have no shot. And then you just do what's called a turnover. So again, that is kind of something that as you play it, you will kind of maybe get a better understanding or a house rule. Another interesting thing about this game is none of the guys have stats. Right, the only stat they have is their tactical value, right, which they call the VT, but they have no stats. And I mean, in one sense, you would think, oh, this is really boring. But as I was playing the game, I actually enjoyed the fact that I did not have to worry about each little guy's stats. It was simply what was their VT. And I knew if it was a squad of riflemen, everybody's VT but the leader was going to be a 3. And so that made it very quick to play solo because there is no stats other than their VT. And then some of the squad leaders, have a higher VT, and then they might have a couple of weight actions they can do. And they have an ability where they can do a target, which I think is something like if they see a target that you can't see at the moment, they can do what's called an indicate target, which I didn't want to get into that either. That was just been some more rules to throw at you. But for a solo game, I think the way I played it would be perfect with 5 to 7 figures on each side. I could see using this for a small scouting action, a patrol, maybe a small fight inside of a small town or something. And then when you bring in the rest of the unit, the rest of the company or platoon, you can switch right over to boat action. So you could almost play a quick game of this with just 5 guys on each side to determine, with a game of boat action of, okay, well, who's going to have the town to begin with? Who's going to be able to put their figures in buildings? And maybe that fight, the result of that would determine that, because in that one, the Americans had dropped one German, but the Germans had another American guy pretty pinned. But the way the rules are, he could probably crawl out of that next turn, depending on how the priorities shook out. The other thing I will say is the game uses a lot of markers. So you will go from their status of your marker of what you declare as your action. There's a marker for what your priority roll was. There is going to be markers for that you fired, that you got pinned. There's going to be markers of, if you're wounded, there will be markers. There's just a lot of different markers that are moving and changing through the game. So you're going to have to kind of think of how you want to manage that, which is, again, why I said you probably don't want more than 5 or 6 figures on each side if you're one person playing solo. If it's 2 of you, I could easily see you doing 10 or 12 guys, because no more than 3 on each side will ever be in play at one time. So like the scenario I played out, basically after that last guy fired, all of that stuff would get picked up, and then the German player would start his phase with those of his guys that hadn't acted. So the ones with the turnover, they would keep their turnover marker, but the German guy, I think he had one or maybe two other Germans that hadn't done anything. So they would get to do their actions now. The Americans, I think all of their guys had used up their actions, except for, no, I think they had one or two as well. And then so those would get to do any reactions that they wanted to try to do. But I mean, I actually think this is a very fun, very interesting, and like I said, this could be a very quick system to play. I like the variety of weapons that they give you. I like the variety of units. I have not tried any of the scenarios, obviously. And I have not really used any of the keywords, which I would like to see how they change things a lot. But other than that, man, this game is Operation Squad World War II. So maybe you can find this online. Maybe you can find it at a Noble Knight or one of those types of places that would carry this. But if you liked what you saw, see if you can look it up. All right, take care, guys. God bless.